Wellness, health and balance of the body, mind, spirit. Inspiration of countless businesses, trends, and microtrends, and following the rise of COVID-19, perhaps more pertinent than ever. But in a fast-paced, expensive city like New York, wellness can be difficult to achieve, and not everyone has equal access to it. This is seen at every level of public health, as COVID made evident, with Black New Yorkers dying at a rate twice that of white residents. Julia Bennett is an acupuncturist who once protested alongside the Black Panther Party and the Young Lords during her college years in New York. Growing up in the Jim Crow South, she saw systemic health disparities firsthand.
Hospitals looked very different in the African American communities than they did in other communities. Services were different, schools were different. So I've always had an excitement to work in spaces where parity and justice were at the top of the list.
In 2008, Bennett and 6 others decided to open Third Root, a wellness center and collective based in Flatbush, Brooklyn. They've provided holistic and affordable healthcare to local residents for 13 years. For Bennett, wellness is not a luxury, but a birthright. She says achieving wellness can both alleviate and prevent harm.
We are born in this space and place to be joyful, to be whole, to be wholesome, to be healthy, to be vibrant. And I believe that that is our right as human beings. Unhealthy energy can only produce unhealthy results. And so any part of us that's out of alignment with who we have a right to be, or who we were born to be, is going to disturb everything about how we move in the world. And that hurts. And as they say, hurt people hurt other people.
But on September 8th, Third Root announced in an online statement that they would be closing permanently. Operations are to continue until December 19th, then cease. The statement says, after 13 years of offering healing services to the local Flatbush community and those most impacted by systemic inequality, Third Root lost its lease. The current business cannot shoulder relocation costs on top of existing financial losses. Bennett says Third Root's landlord has decided to repurpose the space, potentially for a safer financial option.
It's just also time for them to figure out how to not continue to take risks with tenants who may or may not be able to pay the rent. We're in a good place, sort of in a good place now, and could probably afford to pay the rent, but the decision has already been made.
Third Root's financial struggles are, in part, due to their affordability. They offer a sliding scale that allows patrons to give what they can. But Bennett says staying below market rate has made it more difficult to stay afloat.
Before the pandemic, we were struggling a lot financially, but we still wanted to stay open, and we stayed open, and we pushed through all of the barriers that kept getting in the way.
But longtime patron and volunteer Maya Spalter says the sliding scales are important to make Third Root services accessible long-term, not just as a one-off.
Even at the top of that sliding scale is something that could be affordable regularly. And a lot of these practices are most effective when you use them regularly. Having access to acupuncture and massage, not as extreme luxuries or things that you use in case of emergency, but as ways to maintain your health.
Third Root also uses crowdfunding and donations to provide lower cost and free services to community members. The Community Care Fund was started in summer of 2020 when COVID-19 and protests against police brutality rocked New York's Black community. Third Root's Black patrons gained free access to all services. Tanisha Newland is a fund recipient. She says these services were a relief during a traumatic time.
Third Root is like the cushion on the margin. Like Third Root is that space on the margin that lets you just let me just have a little bit more ease, a little bit more care. Just the fact that someone would use their expertise to be so focused on the little ways that these stresses are affecting me. Like, I'm the first generation of women in my family who doesn't have to clean someone else's house to make a living. So I'm starting from like a little bit behind the line here, but I can get acupuncture at Third Root. What?
Beyond affordability, Third Root also aims to offer inclusivity. By contrast, Tanisha says, yoga classes she took in college made her feel uncomfortable and unwelcome based on her race and size.
There was just one day when I was like, I do not feel comfortable stretching in front of these people. I do not feel comfortable like reaching in certain ways. I'm kind of like, I'm not like opening my chest and doing certain movements. I feel really self-conscious, and I'm definitely being judged.
But Spalter says Third Root is different.
You don't actually have to be any particular sort of way to be welcome here. And I think that is very unique in places that purport to be wellness spaces. I think the idea is that you should be well to be welcome, or that you should be a particular body shape to practice a particular modality. I think the practitioners here actively welcome people to not be.
In an era of gentrification, economic instability and rising rents often push out businesses. Spalter says she's used to seeing them go.
Maybe it's unique to living in Brooklyn in this part of time, but I don't know if I really expect good things to stick around anymore. But they do come and go.
But Bennett says coming to terms with saying goodbye to Third Root after 13 years is an ongoing challenge.
It takes your breath away. You know, it was hard, it's painful, it continues to be. But you know, everything has a lifespan, and this has been the lifespan of Third Root. And so although it's hard to let go, it's the reality, and we all have to face, you know, all of the realities of our journey.
In the wake of the community's loss, Third Root is giving patrons access to their practitioners' contact information and a directory of other healing spaces to receive care. And Bennett says she hopes Third Root's ideals will live on through generations to come.
Although we're closing, I walk away knowing that we impacted a community, and that Third Root will always live. And my hope is that anybody and everybody who wants and believes in justice will, you know, pick up the torch and run with it. And so that's where I am. You know, like, may young people see this as a way to walk in the world and to know that this is the way we're supposed to live, and it's okay to struggle, but struggle toward the greatest good that we can possibly offer.
For NYU Now, this is Laura Measher.